Hello, my name is Amy Kahn, Director of Student Financial Services at Hofstra University. Welcome and thank you for joining us. In today's webinar, we will discuss various undergraduate financial aid programs, how and when to apply, filing the FAFSA, and provide helpful resources. At the end of the presentation, we will answer as many questions as time will allow. If we are not able to answer your questions during the webinar, we will email the response to you individually. Feel free to type in your questions throughout the presentation. Within a couple of days after the webinar, you will be emailed a link to the recording of the presentation. And now, let's begin. Financial aid is comprised of three major categories: grants and scholarships known as gift aid, which does not need to be paid back; loans, which can be paid in the form of student or parent loans and are repaid with interest; and federal WorkStudy, a program which allows students to work and earn money to help pay for college in the form of a paycheck. Gift aid can come from both university and outside sources, such as local civic associations. At Hofstra, merit-based aid is determined simply by filing the application for admission. There is no separate application for merit-based aid. If the student is eligible for merit aid, the notification will be included with the letter of acceptance from the offer of admission. Institutional grants at Hofstra require the FAFSA application. Hofstra begins to send out financial aid packages based on the FAFSA applications received the beginning of March. The Pell and SEOG grants are federal grants which are awarded to students demonstrating exceptional financial need calculated by the FAFSA. The Tuition Assistance Program, TAP, is a grant offered to eligible New York State residents attending a college located in New York State. The TAP application is provided by a link upon completing the FAFSA. Additional scholarships and grants can be applied for at various scholarship search sites online, such as finaid.org, fastweb.com, scholarships.com, and collegeboard.com. The next category of financial aid we will discuss is education loans. The Stafford is a student loan divided into two categories, subsidized and unsubsidized. The eligibility for subsidized versus unsubsidized is determined by the FAFSA. The interest on the subsidized loan is paid by the government while the student is in college, whereas the unsubsidized loan interest accrues while the student is in college. The interest rate is currently at 4.66% with a loan fee of 1.073%. The student has the option to repay these loans while in college, but most defer and repay when it is required 6 months after graduation. The maximum borrowing limit for new dependent students is $5,500 for the year. For independent students, it is $9,500 a year. The Perkins loan is a small student loan program offered to students who demonstrate exceptional financial need as calculated by the FAFSA. It is 5% interest and repayment begins 9 months after graduation. The award is approximately $1,400 for the year at Hofstra with no loan fee. The Federal Parent Plus loan is borrowed and is required to be repaid by the parent. The parent must be approved by a credit check performed by the Department of Education. If the parent is experiencing financial difficulties, he or she can apply with an endorser, which is kind of like a cosigner. The PLUS loan can be deferred to repay after the student graduates. It is 7.21% interest, and as long as the parent and/or parent with endorser passes the credit check, The parent can borrow as much as needed to cover the entire cost of education for the year, including room, dining plans, and more to get refunded to pay for other out-of-pocket costs like transportation. The PLUS loan has a 4.292% loan fee. Other types of loans to help finance education include alternative student loans, which the student would have to apply with a credit-worthy cosigner, or parent home equity loans. For more information on loan programs and how to apply, please see our webpage, hofstra.edu/learnaboutloans. Students must file the FAFSA and demonstrate financial need to qualify for federal work-study. Federal work-study is a program where students work to earn a paycheck. It is not deducted from the tuition bill. This gives students the opportunity to not only earn money to help pay for college expenses, it also provides real work experience to help build their resume. Although federal work-study eligibility may be indicated on the financial aid award notification, students will need to apply for jobs and be hired for them. The positions are not guaranteed. Federal work-study earnings are required to be reported on the next year's FAFSA. However, unlike other income, it does not count against the student in the calculation for federal student aid. There are other non-federal work-study jobs on Hofstra campus for students, but there are fewer of them. Students will be able to view all open positions at hofstra.edu/jobs. And now we will discuss filing the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, for 2015-16. Financial aid application time begins after January 1st of the student's senior year in high school. The free application for federal student aid is filed at FAFSAgov. At the end of filing the FAFSA, a link will be provided to New York State residents to apply for New York State aid at hesc.ny.gov. If students miss the link, they should wait approximately 3 to 5 business days and go directly to hesc.ny.gov to apply. Some, but not all, other state aid programs require the FAFSA. See the full list at FAFSA.gov. In addition to the federal and state applications for financial aid, some 400 colleges and universities and scholarship programs may require the students to file the CSS profile application at collegeboard.org. Hofstra, however, does not participate in the profile application. So why should you file the FAFSA? Well, it's free. It determines eligibility for federal grants, loans, and work-study. Some states, including New York, require it as the first part of an application process for financial aid from that state. Some colleges and private organizations require it for consideration of scholarships and grants, just like New York does. Should I hire a consultant to help me file the FAFSA? We at Hofstra do not recommend paying a fee when you can get the help you need for free. Specialized FAFSA representatives are available to assist you step-by-step through the application at 1-800-4FED-AID, or you can click on the Live Help button to chat with a FAFSA representative. What is the difference between FAFSA.gov and FAFSA.com? FAFSA.gov is the official Federal Department of Education website for filing the FAFSA. FAFSA.com is a private company which provides an advisory service and charges you a fee. Who is eligible to file a FAFSA? U.S. citizens and eligible non-citizens, such as permanent residents, are eligible to file a FAFSA. Undocumented students, Dreamers, are not eligible to file a FAFSA and are not eligible for federal financial aid, but are eligible for Hofstra merit-based scholarships. So step 1 in filing the FAFSA requires you to apply for a federal PIN number, the Personal Identification Number, at pen.ed.gov. A PIN is required for both the student applicant and one parent if the student is dependent. Each student FAFSA filer, siblings, must have a separate PIN. The parent uses his or her same PIN for each child filing a FAFSA. So in simple terms, think of the PIN as like a Social Security number. Each individual person has to have a PIN number and keeps the same PIN number. The PIN allows you to complete and sign the FAFSA electronically, and it also allows you to complete the federal direct loan applications. You will use the same PIN numbers to file the FAFSA every year. So please be sure to keep your PIN in a secure place. Step 2, after January 1st, every year you're going to need to collect the documents to apply for both the student and parents, all sources of 2014 tax and untaxed income, such as income tax returns, W-2 forms, benefit statements, etc. Asset information such as your most recent bank statements, investments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, etc. Social Security numbers, the student's driver's license, if applicable, and alien registration number, if applicable. So what are some common mistakes people make when completing the FAFSA? The biggest one is not asking for help. So please call 1-800-4FED-AID and the experts will walk you step by step through the application. Please make sure you file the correct FAFSA for the correct aid year. So if the student will be attending this coming fall 2015, make sure that you're filing the 2015-16 FAFSA because there will be multiple year FAFSAs available at the same time. Do not use nicknames. Use names as they appear on your Social Security cards. Make sure you're using the correct Social Security numbers for the student and the parents. Do not list parent information under the student. You want to make sure that you're not listing income twice. Make sure both student and parent signatures go through. You will receive an email confirmation of the FAFSA within a couple of days, so you will know if it went through okay. Step 3, you will want to print out a 2015-16 FAFSA on the web worksheet. The worksheet is used as a helpful tool to help you organize your information and cut down on the time you need to complete the FAFSA online. You do not mail the web worksheet to FAFSA or to colleges. It's just for you to use. So as you're completing the FAFSA, one of the first questions that people typically have questions with is, what is Selective Service? Selective Service is a registration requirement for young men which preserves America's ability to provide manpower in an emergency to the United States Armed Forces. Almost all men ages 18 through 25 must register. Since this is a federal requirement, it is required for qualified male students to apply for federal financial aid. They can easily do so at sss.gov. When filing the FAFSA, it is important to understand the principles of federal needs analysis. Paying for college is a partnership. An equitable and consistent formula must be applied based on dependency status of the student. The parent contribution and student contribution equals the expected family contribution. a snapshot of the current financial condition, allowing for consideration of loss of income, special circumstances such as unemployment, disability, separation, divorce, or death of a parent, excessive medical and dental expenses paid out of pocket, etc. Most financial aid offices have a special form for this. So at Hofstra, we call ours the Request for Reevaluation form. So if any of these circumstances apply to you, please be sure to request one of our Request for Reevaluation forms. Dependent students must file the FAFSA with the parent with whom they've lived the last 12 months prior to filing the FAFSA, regardless of who claimed the student on their tax return. If the parent that the student lives with is remarried, the step-parent's information must be reported on the FAFSA. Who is the parent on the FAFSA? The biological or step-parent married to the parent the student lives with, or an adoptive parent. If the parents are living in the same household, you must report information for both parents, even if they're separated, divorced, or same-gender marriage. Who is not considered a parent when filing the FAFSA? Grandparents, foster parents, legal guardians, aunts and uncles are not parents for filing the FAFSA unless they legally adopted the student before the student turned 13 years old. Students are considered independent, meaning they do not have to include parent information on the FAFSA if they can answer yes to one or more of the questions below. So, for example, if the student was born before January 1st, 1992, if the student is married, if the student is in graduate school, a veteran, and so on, the student would be considered independent. So you'll see most of our students who apply as first-year freshmen will end up being dependent on the FAFSA. Remember that consideration of parent information is part of the principles of needs analysis. So those students who end up being independent their first year on the FAFSA, you have some unusual circumstances. So I will just pause and give you a moment to read the rest of those circumstances on there. And now you can see the rest of the automatically independent questions. So I'll give you another moment to read through those. Okay, so my parents are separated or divorced and living apart. Whose information do I put on the FAFSA? You should report the information for the parent who you lived with the most over the past 12 months, again, regardless of who claims you on their tax return. If you did not live with one parent more than the other, then you need to report the information for the parent who provided the most financial support. If parents are separated or divorced but still living in the same household, you must report the information for both parents. Do parents have to be legally separated to file the FAFSA as separated? No, but you can count on colleges asking for proof of the separate residences, such as copies of leases and utility bills, things like that. My step-parent is not responsible for supporting me. Why do I have to report his or her information on the FAFSA? Basically because it's required by federal financial aid regulations. So if the parent you reside with is remarried, you must report your step-parent's information on the FAFSA. My parents do not have Social Security numbers. How do I complete that area on the FAFSA? You would just enter all zeros in the spaces asking for their Social Security numbers. We have not yet completed our 2014 federal income tax returns. How do we complete the FAFSA? You would just check the box indicating that you have not yet filed and enter your estimated income. Once your tax returns have been filed, you can return to the FAFSA to correct the information. The FAFSA requires us to report the net worth of our investments. What does that mean? The net worth is the current value of all your investments required to be reported on the FAFSA minus debt. And you would only subtract debt from properties other than your primary residence, like a vacation home or rental property. So what kind of investments are included on the FAFSA? You would include real estate, but you would not include the home you live in unless a portion of it is rented out. If a portion of it is rented out, you have to report that portion. You would include trust funds, UGMA and UPMA accounts, money market funds, mutual funds, certificates of deposit, stocks, stock options, bonds, other securities, installment and land sale contracts, including the mortgages held, commodities, etc. Qualified educational benefits or education savings account, like the Coverdell savings accounts, 529 college savings plans, and the refund value of 529 prepaid tuition plans. How are 529 plans reported on the FAFSA? This is the most common one. That's why we address this one specifically. The 529 plans are reported under the owner as an investment, not the beneficiary. So if the parent is the owner, it is reported under the parent investment question. If the parent has more than one 529 plan for various members of the family, including the siblings of the student, the total value of all plans must be reported under the parent. If owned by a third party, like a grandparent, it is not reported on the FAFSA as an asset, but the amounts withdrawn and paid to the student's college bill each year needs to be reported as untaxed income on the following year's FAFSA. Besides the home we live in, are there other investments we do not include? You do not include the value of life insurance, retirement plans, like 401k plans, pension funds, annuities, non-education IRAs, KEO plans, etc. UGMA and UPMA accounts for which you are the custodian but not the owner, or cash, savings, and checking accounts which you already included in other areas of the FAFSA. If you have any specific questions regarding specific investments, please be sure to call the 1-800-4FED-AID number. Since they are the experts, they'll listen to exactly what kind of investment you have and give you the appropriate information. How do I find out the federal college codes of the schools I want to apply to? There's a search online when you're completing the FAFSA. Ask the colleges directly, or you can call the FAFSA toll-free number at 1-800-4FED-AID. Hofstra's federal school code is 002732. I can only send the FAFSA to 10 colleges online. What if I need to send the FAFSA to more? You can change the codes by going back into the FAFSA online or call the toll-free number and do it over the phone. By doing this, you're actually removing some of the previous schools listed, and therefore any future changes to the FAFSA will only be sent to the 10 schools most recently listed on the FAFSA. I'm interested in living on campus, but not sure. Which answer should I indicate on the FAFSA? For each college code you indicate on the FAFSA, you will need to indicate the corresponding housing status. If you are interested in living on campus, you should indicate on campus. If you need to change the status later to with parent or off campus, You should inform each financial aid office directly. What is the difference between the with parent and off-campus housing status? With parent means the student will be commuting from their parents' or other relatives' home. Off-campus means the student will be commuting from his or her own home or apartment. There is no place to indicate special circumstances such as loss of income on the FAFSA. Can I request a reevaluation? Yes, and most colleges do have a special form for this. So you would need to contact each college financial aid office, explain your circumstances, and they will tell you the proper procedure. What if I have to make corrections to my FAFSA after I file it? Simply return to FAFSAgov and make the corrections online. How do I apply for the tuition assistance program? There will be a link for New York State residents to apply for TAP at the end of the FAFSA. If you miss the link, wait approximately 3 to 5 days, then go directly to the TAP website to apply at hes.ny.gov. And just like the federal FAFSA number, the state also has a toll-free number. So you can call 1-888-NYS-HESC, and they will help you step by step over the phone. Step 4, so once you've completed the web worksheet, you would go to FAFSA.gov and click to start a new FAFSA. You would enter all your information, and then the FAFSA information will be sent to the colleges and universities you gave the school code for. Once they receive the FAFSA, financial aid package will be calculated by colleges you send it to if you're accepted to admission. Most colleges will require you to be accepted for admission before they will calculate the financial aid package. At Hofstra, we begin to send out the financial aid packages based on the FAFSA at the beginning of March. Further details regarding required documents will be provided within the financial aid package, so you want to make sure that you're reading all the pages very thoroughly. You would accept or decline the financial aid offered to you and return the response to the financial aid office as early as possible, but no later than May 1st. And we take those acceptances online, so you'll be given the sign-on information for you to accept or decline the awards on our portal. Your FAFSA may be selected by the FAFSA processor or by the college for verification. If this is the case, you will need to submit some 2014 income documentation. You'll need to request copies of your 2014 federal tax return transcripts. You can do that in advance if you want to get a jump start once it's processed, just in case a college requests that transcript at irs.gov/transcript. Any additional aid may be offered upon the completion of verification. Some colleges actually hold back packaging certain forms of financial aid until you do complete the verification. At Hofstra, we don't hold back any financial aid prior to this process. We just offer it to you contingent upon completing the verification process. So any financial aid may be adjusted based on the corrections that we have to make through the verification process. So now let's just kind of review the typical undergraduate financial aid process summary. So you'll see in the left-hand column we have the fall semester senior year in high school. So if you've not completed any of these steps, you want to catch up because we're in January now. So you should be reviewing the information at various college websites. Ours is hofstra.edu/scholarship, so there's very good information about applications and renewal criteria, etc. Males, upon reaching the age of 18, need to register for Selective Service. The student and one parent must apply for a PIN. If your college or university requires the CSS profile, you need to go ahead and file that. After January 1st every year, the FAFSA is not a one-time application. You do have to file it every year at FAFSA.gov. And New York State residents, again, need to apply at hef.ny.gov. In late February, early March, most colleges and universities began to send out the financial aid packages. So again, within that package, it will list the additional items if you are selected to submit those kinds of things. So that would include the verification I was talking about earlier. Other forms that we may require could be a Perkins promissory note if the student is eligible, proof of citizenship status, selective service, and so on. So then in April through May, you'll need to accept or decline your financial aid no later than May 1st. That's the national reply date, and you would be paying your tuition and housing deposits. In May, students complete their financial aid processes for the Stafford loan. So there are two things for the Stafford loan, the entrance counseling and master promissory note. Along with any parent loan applications, they would need to complete the parent loan request form and the master promissory note. And if you decide that you want to apply for an alternative loan, that is also the time that you would apply for an alternative loan. So you can apply for any combination of these loan programs. Most students do take at least the Stafford loans, and then some parents do decide to take out a parent loan or a home equity loan, and some students borrow the alternative loans. So we have provided some helpful links for financial aid resources. Again, our scholarship webpage is hofstra.edu/scholarship. For federal aid, studentaid.gov. For New York State aid, hef.ny.gov. And for really good general information, finaid.org. So now we're going to be taking questions. Just a reminder, don't worry if you missed any of the information in the presentation, because you're going to be emailed a link to the presentation. So let's go ahead and begin to take some questions. Okay. Okay. So the first question is regarding the tuition and fees for this coming fall semester for incoming freshmen. So we do not have those available yet. We will soon be getting those out there and on the web in plenty of time to help you make a decision where you're going to go. So just sit tight and we'll be sending you more information about that. Okay. Next question, what is the FAFSA deadline for fall 2015? We prefer that you file by February 1st. It's not a hard and fast deadline, but you do need to be made aware that there are certain forms of financial aid that are first come, first served, like, for example, the SEOG grant, the Perkins loan, and the federal WorkStudy. I mean, typically, we don't start to run out of those forms of aid until, way later in the process, but you want to make sure that you file your FAFSA by February 1st. You can do it based on estimated numbers, and then if you want to make corrections after that, you can do so. Next question. An EFC with one student afforded me no help. Another child entering school in September 2015. Does having two tuitions make a difference? Okay, so at Hofstra, we do not give a tuition discount for having siblings enrolled at the college at the same time, but it makes a big difference in the EFC. When you have more than one child in college at the same time, you will indicate that on the FAFSA. And literally, if you have two in the household going to college at the same time, it will split that EFC in half. And if you have three, it'll divide it amongst the three, and so on. Okay, the next question is debt factored into the FAFSA calculations. Not debt such as credit card debt or your mortgage, anything like that. It simply asks you to report the net worth of your investments. So let's pretend like you have a rental property that's worth $500,000, and you have a mortgage outstanding on that of $200,000, so you would only report that outstanding debt of the difference as far as the net worth. So, but that is the only kind of debt that's factored into the FAFSA application. The FAFSA is simply based on the number in household, the number in college at the same time, your income, and those limited asset questions for both the parent and the student. We are in the process of buying a house in May. Should we wait to file the FAFSA until after closing? I don't recommend that you apply that late in the process because you may be missing deadlines. Hofstra, I would assume, although we would like it to be the only college that your student applies to, but I would assume that you may be applying to more than one college. So you really need to meet the deadlines. So if I'm going to make a leap in answering this question and thinking that you may have some money in the bank that you're thinking will not be there because you're making a down payment and buying a house after May. But that is something that you can bring to the attention of the financial aid administrators. So you should notify each college after you file the FAFSA. We would want proof of that. We would actually want you to submit proof of buying the house and the declining amount of the assets. And some colleges will take a one-time situation like that into consideration and may be able to do something with the financial aid package. So you really need to have that conversation with each college financial aid office. Okay, next question. My FAFSA said, do you want to skip asset questions? So I checked yes. In the FAFSA, there are certain thresholds of income and questions that you answer that may require you to complete the assets and some not. So if it allows you to skip them, by all means, you can skip them. You just, but if it says that you cannot proceed further with completing the FAFSA until you answer the assets, then you will need to do that. Okay, it seems like we're getting several questions on specific investments, how to report them on the FAFSA. So I'm just going to make a general statement and say, please call the 1-800-4FED-AID number and tell them what kind of investment or asset question that you have, and they will tell you exactly how to report that on the FAFSA. Okay, next question. Do males under 18 need to register for Selective Service prior to filing the FAFSA? No, they do not register for Selective Service until they turn 18. So if they're under 18 as of the day you're filing the FAFSA will recognize that because you're entering the student's birth date. But it will come up on the next year's FAFSA, so you need to make sure that the student registers for Selective Service as soon after they turn 18 as possible. Next question. If updating tax information once a previously estimated FAFSA was filed, do we update all the other numbers too, like our bank account balances? No. The only updates that you make would be changes to the income information. You never change the assets. Next question, is a pension considered income? So on the FAFSA, there's the income section and the asset section. If you are taking out a pension distribution each year and it's taxable, that will just be part of your taxable income that's already built into your adjusted gross income. So when you're reporting your adjusted gross income on the FAFSA, that will be taken into consideration. But if part of your pension is untaxed, you will need to report that untaxed portion in the untaxed income section on the FAFSA, but you never ever report the total value of your pension as an asset. Let's see. If I, as the parent, have investments with my child as the co-owner, like a joint bank account, Does the asset get reported under my information or the student's on the FAFSA? So if there are jointly held assets, then you report half under the parent information and half under the student. Next question, I filed 7 years ago and never filed again. Do I need the old pen? Okay. You can go onto the pen website. If you don't remember what it is, you can always request a new pen. So just go, if you can't find it, you don't remember it, you will need a pen. So you can go into pen.ed.gov, and it's very simple to take care of that. Let's see. Is income reported on the FAFSA based on gross salary or after deductions? So the main questions on the FAFSA are asking for your adjusted gross income, federal taxes paid, and your assets. It'll tell you exactly which line from your tax return to report. So again, I highly recommend that you call the FAFSA 1-800 number when you're filling out the FAFSA, because they know exactly which lines for you to look at on your tax return. Just remember, folks, we're all paying federal taxes and state taxes. So our tax dollars are already paying for these people to help you fill out these forms. So, take advantage of that. Next question, is there a specific level of income for which the student will not be eligible for aid from the FAFSA? The answer is no. Every student who's qualified to file a FAFSA is eligible for a Stafford loan at a minimum. The FAFSA is a complicated formula based on the calculation of the information you put on it, including the income and the assets, how many people are in the household, how many people are going to school, how many children, that is, in the household are going to college at the same time. You cannot count parents in the number in college when you're filing the FAFSA. You do include the parents in the number in household, but you do not include the parents in the number in college. But basically, everything you report on the FAFSA factors into the formula. Okay. Next question. If you only qualify for student or parent loans, do you have to file the FAFSA every year? Yes, because those are federal forms of financial aid, and that you are required to file the FAFSA every year. Next question, if the student does not have to file taxes because they earned lower than the IRS requires them to file, do they have to report their earnings that they did have on the FAFSA? The answer is yes, they do. So if they, worked at a part-time job, $1,000 maybe they earned, but they did not file a tax return, yes, they do have to report that income on the FAFSA. Next question, if we're selected for verification of our FAFSA, does the tax transcript get sent directly from the IRS to the college? Do we need to request a transcript for each college? So what you would do is go onto that website from that summary chart page, and it has the irs.gov/transcript website, and you would simply print it off from there. So depending on how many colleges ask you for the copy of it, you would just print out however many you need and send it to them directly. At Hofstra, it's a good idea to scan and email it to us, so that way you'll get a confirmation that you have received it, but they do not send it directly to the college. You have to obtain the copy of the tax transcript and send it to the college yourself. Okay, we seem to be having some questions specific to Hofstra scholarships. Please contact our office directly, but if you look at our webpage, hofstra.edu/scholarships, that will answer probably 90% of your questions there. So when you have a chance, it's just hofstra.edu/scholarships. If deferring admission, should we still fill out a FAFSA? Yes, you would still want to fill out a FAFSA. assuming that you're talking about deferring until the spring semester, the FAFSA is good for the entire 2015-16 school year. So that would cover next fall, the winter, spring. So you should go ahead and fill that out. Next question, do you refile the FAFSA each academic year or one time only? You file it each year after January 1st. So after January 1st, every single year, that FAFSA, the New Year FAFSA, is going to be online, and you complete it. Next question, do I need to report Social Security, disability? No. Any untaxed, any Social Security benefits, untaxed SSI, that's not reported. If you did have taxable Social Security, that's already part of your tax return, that's just simply added into your total adjusted gross income. So you would not want to report that twice. So again, it's only the taxable part. If you had any taxable part to any Social Security benefits as part of your adjusted gross income, you're simply reporting the adjusted gross income. Okay, question. Losing Social Security as a special circumstance for reevaluation. Well, since most Social Security benefits are not even included on the FAFSA to begin with, that's not really something you can do a reevaluation on, because the reevaluation is simply replacing, in most cases, what we're doing is simply replacing the 2014 income on the FAFSA with your estimated or projected 2015. But if that is your only form of support, or if you're, let's say, maybe there's Social Security benefits to the student that's being lost because they're turning 18 years of age, that's something we might look at, in a different light. It's certainly something worth bringing to the attention of the financial aid administrator to see if at all there's anything that can be done. Okay. Next question, how will outside scholarships impact Hofstra awards? Well, basically, Hofstra institutional scholarships and grants can only apply to tuition. So if an outside scholarship specifies it's for tuition only, we will reduce the Hofstra aid if, and only if, the combination in total exceeds the total tuition. If the combination of the outside scholarship and the Hofstra institutional grants and scholarships do not exceed tuition, then the Hofstra aid is not reduced. Next question, grandparents are living in the household. Can they be included in the number in household on the FAFSA? So for persons other than the student parents and the student siblings, any grandparents, nieces, nephews, any other your friends of the family, what have you, that may be living in the household can only be included in the number in household on the FAFSA if they now live with, will continue to live with, and receive more than half of their support, whatever it takes to support them to live, more than 50% from your parents. So if that is the circumstance, then yes, they are able to be reported and included in the number in household on the FAFSA. Okay, next question. When you get the EFC, does the college meet the full amount above the EFC? So the answer is not necessarily at Hofstra, because there could be circumstances, let's say, where a student has a high EFC and yet they achieve so high academically that they get higher scholarships, etc. So it could be the answer could be yes or no. There's no real answer to that. I think most people are interested in understanding, does a specific college meet full financial need? And as a policy at Hofstra, we don't necessarily meet the financial need, but that's not to say that we don't because of the combination of the different kinds of financial aid programs. Next question, if my parents' income is high, does that mean I won't qualify for financial aid? Every single student who's eligible to file a FAFSA is absolutely eligible for a Stafford loan. So you should never rule out the possibility of getting some form of financial aid. My suggestion is I highly, highly recommend every single first-year student file a FAFSA just to see what you can get. You might be pleasantly surprised. So, you know, it only takes maybe a half an hour to fill out the FAFSA. You might as well fill it out and see if there's something that you can get. Our Hofstra Grants are both academically linked and need linked. So you may think your EFC is high, but you know, relatively speaking, depending on the combination of the need and the academics, you may still be eligible for one of our Hofstra grants. So always apply at least the first year in college. If you decide that you don't want to file after the first year, then you can choose to do that. But, you know, if you don't apply, then you're definitely not going to get more financial aid. Next question, does living on campus versus commuting affect the amount of financial aid? It can to a degree, mostly the loan situation, because what's happening with the loans is that I mentioned with the Parent Plus loan, and this goes with the alternative loans as well, you can borrow up to the full cost of attendance, including the other expenses, such as, you know, not just the tuition and fees. So you may be eligible for higher amounts. Okay. Does Hofstra use the CSS profile? No. Next question, why are expenses not listed on the FAFSA? Well, that's the Department of Education through our Congress formula, so they decided not to include those things on the FAFSA. Next question, what order should we list colleges on our FAFSA? It doesn't matter because the information is going to be sent electronically to the various colleges. There's no specified order. Next question, does financial aid include meal plans? So if you indicate that you're filing on your FAFSA that you're going to be living on campus, we definitely take that into consideration because all resident students are required to file, to have a meal plan. But you can't, yes, there are certain forms of financial aid. If you have enough to cover your full tuition and fees, even if you're a commuter, you may be eligible to have in combination enough financial aid, even just with the Stafford loans. You can use the Stafford loans if that's what you want to cover the meal plan. Okay, let's see. You have any? Okay, are there other ways to finance Hofstra, like a monthly payment plan? Can we use more than one way to pay, like use some loans and do the payment plan for the rest? Yes. At Hofstra, we do have a monthly payment plan, so you can spread out just that 1 year's monthly payments over the year. So our first payment plan, you would sign up in May, and the first payment begins in June, and spread out whatever out-of-pocket payments that you want to pay over 10 months. There is a small fee to enroll in the plan. It just basically pays for the software, you know, to run the program. But if you want to take a look at our payment options in general, you can take a look at our webpage, hofstra.edu/payment options. Okay, do we have some final questions? We're almost finished here. Okay, just a final reminder that we will be emailing the recorded version of the FAFSA to you. If you have any specific questions at Hofstra, we have our email address there. That's probably the best way to contact us at this point. At studentfinancialservices@hofstra.edu. I know our phones are pretty busy because our students who are enrolled for the spring semester are just now coming back and they've been paying their bills. So you might find a little bit of a wait on the phones, but certainly email us any of your emails. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. If you have any additional questions, just give us a call or our email, and have a great day.